Hello everyone and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The world as the Young and the Restless continues to unfold in waves of revelation and emotional upheaval. A new storm is quietly gathering around Holden Novak, whose life has been turned completely upside down. What began as a search for answers has now become something far more overwhelming, as Holden finds himself drowning in truths he never expected to face. The revelation that Malcolm Winters is his biological father doesn't just shake his identity, it fractures everything he thought he knew about his past. And just as he begins to process that truth, another lands with equal force. Lily Winters, a woman he already knows, is not just someone in his orbit, but his half-sister. The weight of these discoveries presses heavily on him, suffocating in its intensity, leaving him searching for solid ground in a reality that suddenly feels unfamiliar. It's not just shocking, it's deeply personal, deeply disorienting, and impossible to ignore. In the midst of this emotional storm, Holden turns not to the person who expected to be his confidant, but to someone else entirely, Claire Newman. There's something about Claire's presence that feels safe, steady, and grounding, and in a moment of vulnerability, Holden opens up to her, allowing the chaos inside him to spill out. But that decision doesn't go unnoticed, nor does it go unpunished emotionally. Audra Charles, who had clearly positioned herself as someone Holden should trust, is left stung and sidelined, her pride bruised by his rejection. For Audra, this isn't just about curiosity, it's about control, about being the one people turn to, and about not being shut out. And so, when she senses something significant is being hidden from her, she refuses to simply walk away. The atmosphere at society hums with quiet tension as Audra lingers, her presence blending into the background as she listens, watches, and waits. What begins as subtle curiosity quickly transforms into something far more deliberate as she overhears fragments of Holden's conversation. Piece by piece, the truth reveals itself to her, the shocking reality of Holden's biological connection to Malcolm and the deeply complicated tie he shares with Lily. It's enough to make anyone pause, but Audra is not just anyone. Her mind races, calculating, dissecting, searching for angles and opportunities even in the midst of someone else's emotional turmoil. Though she seems to slip away before hearing everything, there's an unsettling sense that Audra may have learned more than she initially lets on, because the story doesn't end there, it deepens. Whether by chance or by design, Audra may have positioned herself once again to overhear something even more critical. At the GCAC, or perhaps lingering just a little longer at society than anyone realized, she could have uncovered the most crucial detail of all, that Malcolm's life hangs in the balance, dependent on finding a bone marrow donor match, and more importantly, that Holden himself is waiting for results that could determine whether he becomes his father's savior. It's the kind of moment that carries enormous emotional weight, the potential to rewrite relationships, to forge bonds that could last a lifetime. If Holden is the match, he doesn't just save Malcolm, he cements his place within the Winters family in a way that no words ever could. But where there is hope, there is also the potential for interference, and Audra Charles is no stranger to bending the narrative to her advantage. As the possibility of Holden stepping into the role of hero looms, so too does the possibility that Audra sees this as a threat rather than a triumph. Because if Holden saves Malcolm, everything changes. His connection to Lily deepens, his place in the family becomes undeniable, and perhaps most importantly, his bond with Claire strengthens in a way that could leave Audra completely on the outside. For someone like Audra, who thrives on influence and control, that outcome may be unacceptable. And so, a darker question begins to take shape, one that lingers in the shadows of every unfolding scene. What if the outcome Holden receives isn't the truth? The idea is as chilling as it is plausible. Audra, known for her cunning and her ability to manipulate situations from behind the scenes, could have taken matters into her own hands, Perhaps she reached out to someone at the lab, someone willing to alter a result in exchange for a favor. Perhaps she ensured that Holden would be told he wasn't a match, cutting him off from the chance to save Malcolm before he ever had the opportunity to try. It's a move that would change everything, not just for Holden, but for everyone connected to him. The ripple effects would be devastating, quietly reshaping relationships while leaving the truth buried beneath layers of deception. And yet, Audra's potential scheme may not end with sabotage alone. There's a deeper, more insidious layer to consider, one rooted in leverage and control. If another donor eventually steps forward and Malcolm is saved by someone else, Audra could hold on to her secret like a weapon waiting to be used. At just the right moment, she might reveal the truth to Holden, not out of guilt, but as a calculated move. She could twist the narrative, threaten to expose him as the one who tampered with the results, painting him as someone who chose not to save his own father. It would be the ultimate trap, forcing Holden into silence while giving Audra the upper hand. In that scenario, every interaction becomes charged with tension, every glance layered with unspoken fear. Holden would be trapped, not just by circumstance, but by the weight of a lie he didn't create but might be forced to carry. And Audra, ever the master of manipulation, would stand at the center of it all, pulling strings that no one else can see. It's a dangerous game, one that blurs the line between ambition and cruelty, between strategy and betrayal. And as the story continues to unfold, one thing becomes painfully clear. Audra Charles always has a plan, and she's never afraid to use it. As Genoa City braces for what comes next, the question isn't just whether Holden's test results were real or manipulated, it's how far Audra is willing to go to protect her position. Because in a world where secrets are currency and trust is fragile, the truth has a way of surfacing when it's least expected. And when it does, the fallout could be nothing short of explosive, leaving every character to face the consequences of choices made in the shadows. The tension doesn't fade, it deepens, settling into every corner of Genoa City like a storm that refuses to break, as Holden Novak finds himself standing at the center of a reality that feels increasingly unstable. The weight of his supposed negative donor match lingers over him, heavy and unrelenting, as he tries to make sense of what it means, not just for Malcolm Winters, but for himself. There's a quiet devastation in knowing he might not be able to save the man he just discovered is his father, a grief that feels both premature and painfully real. At the same time, his connection to Lily Winters remains fragile and uncertain, caught in that delicate space between newfound family and emotional distance. Every conversation feels loaded, every silence filled with things left unsaid, as Holden struggles to find his place in a family that already feels like it's slipping through his fingers. And yet, beneath all of that, there's an unshakable feeling that something isn't quite right, an instinct he can't ignore, even if he doesn't yet understand it. Meanwhile, Audra Charles moves through the same world with a completely different energy, one that is calm on the surface but razor sharp underneath. There's a quiet confidence in her steps now, a sense of control that suggests she knows more than she's letting on. If she truly did interfere with Holden's test results, then every glance she casts in his direction carries a hidden meaning, every word carefully chosen to maintain the illusion she's constructed. But Audra isn't just playing defense, she's playing a long game, one where timing is everything and patience is power. She watches as Holden grows closer to Claire Newman, their connection strengthening in the wake of shared vulnerability, and it only sharpens her resolve. Because for Audra, losing control of the narrative isn't an option, it's a threat she intends to eliminate before it fully takes shape. As days pass and the search for a donor continues, hope flickers in and out of the lives of everyone involved, fragile and uncertain. The possibility of another match begins to emerge, offering a lifeline just when it seems like all hope might be lost. For Malcolm, it's a second chance at survival, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is still a path forward. For Lily, it's a bittersweet relief, tangled with the lingering question of what might have been if Holden's results had been different. And for Holden, it's something far more complicated, a mix of gratitude, guilt, and a haunting sense that he was meant to be the one to step up. That feeling doesn't go away. It grows stronger, quietly gnawing at him, pushing him to question everything he thought was certain. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, the cracks begin to show. It might come in the form of a detail that doesn't quite add up, a comment overheard, or a moment where Audra's carefully constructed composure falters just enough to reveal something underneath. Holden starts to notice the inconsistencies, the subtle shifts in behavior that suggest there's more to the story than he's been told. The suspicion takes root slowly, but once it does, it refuses to let go, growing stronger with each passing moment. It's not just doubt anymore, it's a need for answers, a determination to uncover the truth no matter where it leads. And as that determination builds, it sets him on a path that could change everything. For Audra, the risk becomes real in a way she can no longer ignore. If Holden starts asking the right questions, if he digs deep enough, the truth she's buried could come dangerously close to the surface. And that's when her strategy may shift from quiet manipulation to something far more direct, far more dangerous. The moment she chooses to confront him, if she does, won't be driven by guilt or remorse, but by necessity. In a chilling twist, she could reveal just enough of the truth to tighten her grip on the situation, turning her secret into a weapon rather than a liability. By threatening to frame Holden as the one who tampered with the results, she wouldn't just silence him, she would trap him, forcing him into a corner where speaking out becomes impossible. The emotional fallout of such a revelation would be devastating. For Holden, it would mean grappling with the knowledge that he was denied the chance to save his own father, not by fate, but by someone he once trusted. The betrayal would cut deeper than anything he's faced so far, reshaping his understanding of everyone around him. For Claire, it could mean watching someone she cares about unravel under the weight of a truth too heavy to carry alone. And for Lily and Malcolm, the consequences could ripple outward in ways no one can predict, altering the fragile bonds they've only just begun to form. Every relationship would be tested, every loyalty questioned, as the truth threatens to tear through the carefully balanced lives of everyone involved. And yet, in true The Young and the Restless fashion, the story doesn't offer easy answers or simple resolutions. Instead, it builds, layer by layer, tension by tension, until the moment finally arrives when everything can no longer be contained. Secrets have a way of surfacing, especially the ones buried the deepest, and when this one comes to light, it won't just change Holden's story, it will change everything. The question isn't just whether Audra will be exposed, but how much damage will be done by the time the truth finally emerges. Because in a world where ambition and emotion collide so fiercely, the line between right and wrong can blur in an instant, leaving everyone to face the consequences of choices made in the shadows. The pressure continues to build, tightening around Holden Novak like an invisible force he can no longer escape. As the quiet doubts that once lingered in the back of his mind begin to demand his full attention, what once felt like an unfortunate twist of fate now starts to feel disturbingly intentional, as if something or someone nudged events in a direction they were never meant to go. The more Holden reflects on the timeline, the conversations, the subtle reactions of those around him, the more the pieces begin to shift into a pattern he can't ignore. His instincts grow louder, sharper, pushing him toward a truth that feels both urgent and dangerous. And at the center of that growing suspicion stands Audra Charles, whose composed exterior begins to feel less like confidence and more like concealment. There's something in the way she watches him now, something calculated behind her eyes, as though she's waiting not for answers, but for the moment she might need to act. As this internal storm brews, Holden's connection with Claire Newman becomes both a refuge and a complication, a place where he can almost breathe freely while still carrying the weight of everything he doesn't yet understand. Claire senses the shift in him, the quiet intensity that wasn't there before, and though she doesn't have all the answers, she knows something is wrong. Their conversations grow deeper, more searching, filled with unspoken questions that linger just beneath the surface. There's trust there, real unguarded trust, and it becomes the one thing Holden fears putting at risk if the truth turns out to be as dark as he suspects. Yet at the same time, that very trust may be what ultimately gives him the strength to keep digging, to refuse to accept a version of events that no longer feels real. Across town, the emotional stakes continue to rise as Malcolm Winters clings to the fragile hope offered by a new donor possibility, his future hanging in a delicate balance between chance and time. For Lily Winters, every moment becomes a mixture of cautious optimism and lingering heartbreak, as she watches her father's fate unfold while still processing the complicated arrival of a brother she's only just begun to understand. The idea that Holden might have been their miracle, that he could have been the one to save Malcolm, doesn't fully leave her mind, even as she tries to embrace the possibility of another outcome. It's a quiet ache, one that lingers beneath every hopeful update, reminding her how close they may have come to a completely different reality. But beneath all of this, the truth edges closer to the surface, moving silently through the cracks that no one can fully seal. It might come through a lab discrepancy, a name mentioned in passing, or a detail that refuses to align with everything else Holden has been told. Maybe it's a conversation overheard at just the right or wrong moment, or a subtle slip from someone who doesn't realize the weight of what they've revealed. However it begins, it's enough to ignite something unstoppable in Holden, a determination that burns brighter with every step forward. This is no longer about suspicion, it's about certainty, about uncovering something that was never meant to be found. And as he follows that trail, each discovery pulls him closer to a confrontation that feels inevitable. For Audra, the illusion she's carefully maintained begins to fracture in ways she can no longer fully control. There's a shift in her demeanor, a tension that replaces her usual effortless poise, as she realizes that Holden is no longer blindly accepting the story he's been given. The game she's been playing is no longer unfolding exactly as planned, and that unpredictability is something she cannot afford. If the truth comes out, it won't just damage her. It could destroy everything she's built, every alliance she's relied on, every advantage she's carefully secured. And so, as the walls begin to close in, Audra faces a choice: retreat and hope the truth remains buried, or double down and take control in a way that ensures her survival, no matter the cost. When the confrontation finally arrives, it doesn't come quietly. It erupts with all the tension that's been building beneath the surface, raw and unfiltered, as Holden demands answers that Audra can no longer evade. The air between them becomes charged, heavy with accusation and deflection, as the truth hovers just within reach. And in that moment, Audra may do the unthinkable, not by denying everything, but by revealing just enough to shift the balance of power back in her favor. The confession, if it comes, isn't offered as an apology, but as a weapon wrapped in a threat that changes everything. She could admit to altering the test results, to ensuring Holden would never be seen as a match, while simultaneously making it clear that exposing her would come at a devastating cost, because if Holden speaks, she'll make sure he's the one who falls. The weight of that threat crashes down on him, forcing him into an impossible position where truth and consequence collide with brutal force. To stay silent would mean carrying a lie that cost him the chance to save his father, a burden that could haunt him forever. But to speak out would risk destroying his own reputation, his relationships, and any future he's only just begun to build. It's a choice that has no easy answer, no clear path forward, only the painful reality that every option comes with a price. And as he stands there, caught in the aftermath of a truth he never wanted to uncover, the world around him feels more uncertain than ever. In the end, the story refuses to settle, instead leaving everything hanging in a fragile, electrified balance. Because in The Young and the Restless, the truth is never just the truth. It's a catalyst, a spark that ignites consequences no one can fully predict. And as the fallout from Audra's possible betrayal begins to ripple outward, touching every life connected to Holden, one question lingers above all else. When the moment finally comes to choose between silence and truth, what will Holden Novak be willing to risk, and what will he be forced to lose?